as everybody knows, we get a list of topics that the guest wants to talk about each week. So this time Dugan brought up some pretty controversial topics. So this episode will be slightly controversial, I'm sure. I would say that most of the people on the phone, at least in my opinion, are probably going to agree on some of these things. And there will probably be some listeners that disagree. So if that tends to be the issue, just feel free to skip this episode and go to the next one. But we'll bring some, I would say, some knowledge to it, some research that we've done. Nothing that I would say any of us are professionals in or experts on, but it's our opinion. So let's have at it, Dugan. Take us from the top.
If you had to tell one story that summed up who you were as a person, who you are for sure as a person, tell that story.
When I wake up every morning, I try and be more efficient than I was yesterday, and I try and be less of a piece of shit than I was yesterday. So I get answers to those two questions. I come out a better person at the end of it.
You can't put people in buckets, right? We all are a culmination of our experiences in our past and stuff like that, but we all have a brain, which kind of makes it hard for us to put anyone in a bucket because everyone is vastly different.
Welcome to No Universal Answers to the Universe, a video podcast and interview series with Taylor Hall and Kenneth Givens. Today, our guest is Dugan. Dugan, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you guys? It's been a while.
Good. Yeah, it has been a while. So Dugan, real quick, just kind of bring us up to speed. Tell us what you've been doing for the last couple of years. I know you moved in today, so tell us kind of about your move and why you moved.
So I graduated from Hampton-Sydney in May of 2019. So this past May, I'm a construction materials technician for ECS Limited, which is a engineering consulting service. That's what ECS stands for, so it kind of works out. But they're a great company. They are the guys that go up, like I go up to the work site and I do soil sampling and testing.
Yep.
And I like give them the thumbs up, like, hey, can keep going with a spot, or hey, I would add more, get these roots out. So I'm still getting dirty, but I'm not, building. And it's a great work environment. But yeah, I just moved in today to my new house. Actually, a minute and a half drive from my office, so it's even better.
That's nice.
But yeah, that's all I've been really doing. I started on the 2nd of October.
Nice.
I was in Raleigh yesterday for a certification, but that's basically all I've been doing. I've been just getting my life started.
Yeah, I told Dugan briefly, just to bring you up to speed, Taylor, that I've worked with ECS a number of times through my current company. We hire consulting services, whatever, all over the country, and ECS is a pretty large company. Almost everybody knows about them. They're pretty stout when it comes to consulting services from that perspective. So we use them exactly for what Dugan was talking about, concrete samples, soil samples, things like that. So it's a good job, good career to be in. It's a lot of longevity too. Like, you could have that career for whatever the rest of your life. So, I mean, it's not like you're starting at a company where you're going to outgrow them in the next couple of years. So that's good.
Well, I guess I'll start with I went to Catholic school for 13 years. I had it to where like I didn't enjoy it that much, but I still loved learning about the history. I loved reading the Bible and interpreting it. I had a couple of years where I won't say I was atheist, but I just didn't believe in it. And then once I got to college and I started just, living on my own, learning myself, learning what my interests are, I really started to reconnect with it. And the big thing that got me to reconnect with religion and God specifically was my mom had a stroke, not previous July, but the July before. And I was in Australia at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so like I had a meltdown about it. And I remember before I left, she handed me the second Julie and said, hey, it's good luck. Keep it with you. And I had it in my wallet. I will admit I had a couple drinks that night and I was outside and first time I said a prayer in years, got a call the next day, perfectly fine. She was on the phone with me and I was just like, this is awesome. And it helped. I just felt more. I felt like a big thing of relaxation go over me, just like relief, and it kind of helped me just kind of figure out what my life is. Now, I studied biology in college, and I had professors that I had a religion professor that I told him I wasn't religious, but I still got an A in his class because I wrote my butt off for his papers. It was a Bible interpretation. And then I had a science professor, my favorite biology professor, who those two would have every Wednesday. They have talks at lunch about religion versus science, not versus, actually, not versus, and they made it specifically and. They didn't want to have heated debates because we would have people come in and it would get heated. But what we really learned about is just everybody's opinion, everybody thinks. I've always just personally believed it's just whatever helps anybody get to sleep at night, as long as it's not like offensive and harmful to others.
Right.
Religion is this big question that everybody's been wondering throughout time. Like I can bring up. I wish I had it. I wish I thought about popping it up, but I had a paper I wrote on the origins of religion
Mm-hmm.
for my human evolution class, and I wrote about Paleolithic burial practices and how you found like even those guys, even the ones that were like the early forms of our species, were like they're starting to like look like what else is out there? Why are we here? What made us? If you like look at them and you listen to what they're saying, you read what they're saying, they're all on the same path. I wrote another paper on I compared Taoist from the Tao Te Ching, which is Taoism. I
Mhm.
compared passages from that to passages in the New Testament Christian Bible, and they are almost parallel. Like the whole shepherd leading the way, like the sage in Taoism is the shepherd of the people.
So I'm gonna touch on that real quickly, and I'm sure Taylor wants to dive into it too. So me and Taylor have had some religious discussions over the years. So would you say that a person's belief has more to do with the fact that they have something to believe in, a greater power to believe in, rather than it being a specific power that they then delineate into a specific religion?
I think it's the first thing you said, just having
Okay.
something to believe in, something that just kind of gives you that sense of relief, that sense of like not I don't want to say reliability,
Something that keeps you going.
keeps you going. Yeah,
Right.
like I personally do not believe in the straight up Christian God. I think it is a omnipotent, omnipotent God just out there, existing outside of time and space, and he doesn't really do much. What I always thought is, you know, in the Catholic Bible, at least, the one of the best gifts that God gave us was free will. And if you think about it, when the universe was created, the theoretical, like the Big Bang,
Right.
where it's just antimatter and matter particles floating around. God, I always think about this. I'll be like, God just pushed those two together. He just goes tap, let them come together, bang, and he just let the universe create itself. Everything runs on its own. Like that's how I've been like. That explains, disease, poverty, social injustice, but it also explains the beauty of the world, the beauty of everything around us. He sits around, he will intervene, but he gives us the free will to be our own thing.
So, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm probably going to butcher this. Believing in a greater power, but not believing in a specific religion, that's agnostic, correct?
Mm,
Mm-mm.
No?
I think
Agnostic is questioning. It's the person that's still seeking. It's kind of more of a mid ground than a final resting place.
Okay, so you don't know what you believe in, but you're just looking for something. So there is a term for this, and that's why I said I probably was going to butcher it, and I did. So I know atheism is not believing that there is a greater power, correct? But
yeah.
there is a word or moniker that is used, a term that is used to describe exactly what you just stated, Dugan, which is somebody who believes in a greater power but does not know what that power is and does not know what specific religion or strain or strand or whatever you want to call it path that they're
Strand. I'm
following.
sorry.
Taylor, I'm sure you're chomping at the bit to say something or ask something, so have at it.
Well, it's just going to start with we're friends before this, we'll be friends after this. But I
Oh yeah.
internally disagree, Dugan, with pretty much everything you just said from a personal belief standpoint. Respect it, but I'm willing to have a
No, I
dialogue
respect
if
it
that's the
too.
direction we're going to go.
everybody has their own opinion. That's the whole point of this. That's what I thought. That's what I like about the name of the podcast. No universal answers to the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. So Taylor, dive into that.
So I'm sure I have not studied world religions as much as you have because I only took maybe 1 or 2 classes in my undergrad. But I kind of see the religions coalescing around the globe as a global human coping mechanism to stress that we do not understand. And that's why religious belief has kind of gone down, not significantly, but at least some in percentages as we go on to the modern era. And while there's a lot of common symbols, I think a lot of that is more human instinct than any sort of like higher power connecting the dots and having stuff behind the scenes.
Mhm.
It's just my interpretation of the data and being so non-religious of a person myself.
I want to dive into that too. So Taylor, I'm probably more along the lines of you as far as what my beliefs are. But what I will say is you had mentioned that as time has went along, there's been a less, I guess, religious emphasis around the world. Would you agree with the argument that I'm about to make here? Back in whatever the 1600s, there wasn't as many ways or things that you could do that disagreed with the church, right? Nowadays, like it's easy for me to go around the corner and get tattoos. I just got one this week. It's easy for me to get piercings. Not that I have any. Your hands can touch so many different things right now within a 5-minute period of time that goes against what the church believes that people, whatever, 500 or 600 years ago did not have access to. Would you agree that that could be some of the change in the emphasis on religion as a whole worldwide?
A lot of those things have laxed because like right now you're wearing a t-shirt and a jersey. That's mixed material and that's a sin according to Old Testament like law.
I didn't even know that.
It's definitely laxed as we go on. As we understand more about the universe, God does get this more and more removed position. Dugan, kind of like you said, the deist belief of God stepped in, put all the ingredients together, and then stepped back to watch what happened. It's an interesting way to kind of everything gets set in motion, still gets to be organic, but it has a source. And that's the sources where I disagree with it. I think it's random chance, and a believer thinks that someone snapped their fingers and made it happen.
These are things I came up when I was in my room, having a couple of drinks, watching, I don't know, Cosmos. I do agree with what you said earlier about how it's just the human deposition to just try and figure out the understanding of what's going on, what's happening. In my when I was doing my research for that paper, I think I got a B+ on it. So it's good credit. It's a good credible source. But like I did it where like you can see early, like even not Homo sapiens, but Homo habilis, like the branch. They had they had drawings of what looked like deities or just big existential beings that they would put on caves. The human just need to understand. This is at the period in our evolution where our brains were expanding. They were going from primal. They were going from primal, just little branches thinking like, oh, I need to fuck, I need to eat, I need to kill, and then I need to fuck again. Like it's just like that. This is just how our species came about. And with that comes more critical thinking. And they started to think like, what is the sun? Is the sun our God? We rely on it so much. Let's pray to the sun. And then, that led to something else. That led to something else. That led to, I don't know, what the earliest civilization, fucking Egypt. Like they believed in all those gods. And then, then it went to Rome.
So I'm gonna stop you there. So what you're saying is there was no prophet that came down and said pray to the sun, right? There was no prophet that came down and said pray to this fertile God. So at the end of the day, does it matter what we believe in? Does that change what we encounter in the afterlife, or is there an afterlife?
That is something that I believe we physically cannot understand, not understand, answer really. It's different for every person is their own person. That's what makes us so unique as a species in total. It's just one of the things I just love about thinking about religion versus science. I really think science explains religion and then religion explains science. the biggest question that they have with the Big Bang Theory, they're like, everybody's like, okay, here's the Big Bang Theory. Here's what happened. Like, blah, blah, blah. Sheldon gets married to that girl. But, like, nobody knows what happened before. Everybody's like, well, what does this theory say about before? What was there? But up until this point, like, I guess you could say 13 billion years ago, what we understand has happened. That's something I just like thinking about. There's just so much I like that you can, so many different angles you can go through with this. I don't think any one person is right and any one person is wrong.
So for you then, you deal. I don't want to say this because it sounds very douchey for me to say. You're not dealing in tangible facts. We can prove that somewhere along the way there has been an evolution. To what
Yeah.
extent? People argue that all the time. People argue that evolution even happened, but absolutely, tangibly, we can prove that. That's a lot, I guess, of where the conjecture comes from. Is a lot of people want stone cold hard facts, right?
Yeah.
So I was curious of kind of your walk through history and the motivations and kind of milestones we've hit as a human civilization. So as someone who comes at this from a different direction, when I look at history, I look at like geological records and stuff. I don't
Mhm.
think of society. Whereas
Okay.
it seems that you frame the importance of the history of Earth centered around the human race. Is there any significance to that, or did I read too much into it?
Humans are animals. That we are animals that just got lucky on the evolutionary path and our brains developed. So we're still a species just of this earth, just of this planet. I probably just brought it up as like, the development of human civilization throughout the millennia. I mean, that's how I viewed it, just from really just what I've studied. I've studied different religions and societies. And then what do you mean by like the geological like standpoint? Like when you say like you think of our history.
So when I think of Earth's history, I think literally going down through the different layers of rock that have formed as this rock that is Earth gets thrown around the sun. So that's like you can see fossils embedded in the rock at a certain point to see when certain species did or did not exist. And you just go back and kind of try and study how the whole planet has evolved over time. And I hate to use the word evolved because it's connected to so many beliefs and viewpoints, but just kind of
Yeah.
how things have literally stacked up to make what must have been originally an asteroid something that can support life that made it to the internet and all that jazz.
So you're talking about something like carbon dating and the fact that once upon a time we were Pangea and stuff like that, Taylor?
Yeah, just like I try and only take the stuff that I can 100% inherently prove. So we
Yeah.
can look at a rock
Right.
and you can see how old it is by how it developed because people that know rocks know that stuff.
But
Whereas looking at important times or prophets or figures throughout history on more religious side, everything seems to be anecdotal. And while that can be a decent form of evidence, in some places it is considered the weakest form of evidence in a courtroom. And that always kind of resonated with me of someone's experience, while valid, is not scientific process. They're two separate ways of viewing something, two different lenses.
Right. So like growing up, my mom always told me, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Right. Something along those lines is again the tangible evidence. I'm a very tangible evidence driven person, I guess. That's why I like math and that's why I went into engineering, because there's no one on this earth that can prove to me that 4 + 4 does not equal 8. It is a guarantee.
like I remember when I would drive through North Carolina, through like on my way to camp or on trips. If you look at like walls that are on the highway, you can see the different layers, and that's what like you can say like, oh wow, like you don't have like exact like each layer is 10 like 100 years of sediment built up or erosion, but you can see the different layers, different times through all that. There's a lot of tangible evidence on our planet of just what's happened. Like
So I have kind of a tangent for this topic. Let's go back to 2012 when we were nearing December 21st, and it was a meme around the world
that was
that
a great
the,
movie.
the Mild Apocalypse was going to go. Great
It was a
CGI
good
on
movie.
that.
I like the movie.
But I wanted to pose to you, because you're such a proponent of religion and belief being subjective and everyone has their truth. Why do you think that anybody would have non-ironically believed in the Mayan end of the world if they're not from the South American region? Because while it was a meme, I'm sure there were some people that took it seriously and kind of like prepped themselves for everything collapsing.
I was
What
in
is your take on why people would actually sincerely do that?
before you say that, I was in a town right outside of Augusta, Georgia, and during that week, I specifically remember we sold out of water, we sold out of bread, and we sold out of milk.
So, I mean, I think people just saw that. They're like, oh, the ancient Mayans, they're this like unknown civilization with all these crazy things that everybody thought about. And they saw their calendar and they're just like, they said December 21st, 2012, that's the end of the world. That's what the Mayans believe. So people took it seriously. People believe just random things. But they just saw like this is a physical thing that says December 21st, 2012, like right there. The best thing you could think of for the good explanation is if you look at the rock, you're like they ran out of space and it just happened to be that.
Yeah,
And
we
then
went
there's
we went 1,000+ years in advance of where we're at now. I think we can hang it up for now. Let the people in the future figure it out. So I'm gonna go out on the tangent that I was talking about, and the fact that you think that it's great that we can have different beliefs and have a conversation like this and laugh about it. And guess what? We're having a difference of opinion. Um, what you said you didn't like is what I think almost all people who currently, I guess, don't really put forth a religious emphasis in their life, who grew up with that, right? Is it was thrust upon them, it was forced on them, it was something that they're a little overbearing, okay, a lot of the times. And what I wanted to say about that is essentially throughout hundreds of years of history, religion has been a source of war, has been a source of
oh, yeah.
thousands and thousands of deaths. I forget where the article was, but it was an article I read a couple years back that said religion has actually been the source of more death than almost any plague,
Yeah.
right? People talk about plagues and things that we can't control, but we've absolutely, as a human race, overall, have had a lot of control in murdering people for different beliefs, right? It happens nowadays, people of different religion, different race, anything that can separate two classes of people. And it seems like there are people who don't let it affect them, right? And then there's people who let it affect them to a point where they're like, we should just do away with this group of people because they're different from us. So, like, from a religion aspect, kind of what is your opinion, and not necessarily on that matter specifically, but kind of like how religion has grown in the past, and also like not to dive into a whole nother topic, but um, religion has also had very strong opinions about so many things, right? About sexuality, about race, about whatever, you name it, about marriage, and now it seems like they're almost lessening their stronghold on some of these viewpoints. Do you think that's because there's less emphasis being put on religion around the world, or
I you could definitely tell people are going further and further from religion.
right? So would you say that if there was no religion, if we took religion out of the equation, people would still be doing it would be finding ways to differentiate themselves from each other?
People still would. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are just a warring species. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. We're gonna argue. People are gonna always separate. It's just what's in our nature.
Right.
It's a heated thing to think about. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm like, I'm giving up. I'm like, all right, we're screwed, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I
But
just, it's just, it's in our nature. That's what I think, really.
it can get very depressing. I don't think that there's enough people in, I guess, the forefront of society on social media, using their many different media outlets to actually show that people with different opinions can absolutely get on a show, not just a show, but can sit on a couch in the same house and have disagreements without wanting to go to war over it, right? Me and Taylor started this podcast because there really is no universal answers to the universe. There's nothing that can be proven. But B, because we want to learn to be better people, and then C, we're really inquisitive minds and we're interested in seeing how other people view the world, right? And again, to your point earlier, there's not any necessarily right or wrong. It's, hey, what is your opinion on this matter? This is my opinion on this matter. I'm not here to sway you. You're not here to sway me. At the end of the day, I'm still going to get off this podcast. I'm still going to eat dinner with my family. Still going to go to bed tonight, and I'm going to go to work tomorrow. It doesn't have to ruin any of that. Since Trump's, inauguration, or whatever you want to call it, since he become president, I think the biggest change that I have seen is we've gone from being a group of people who disagree with each other, and we kind of are like two cogs that haven't been greased, right? And we're just kind of fighting each other, but we're still moving forward. It's just a rough process. To now, I feel like we're two different machines, and we're so polar opposites. There's been such a disparity in the polarity of this country in the last 3 years. People who were willing to disagree but still work together are now saying they don't want to work together anymore. But I think there should be more efforts put into us agreeing to disagree. At the end of the day, yeah, it's not a win-win, but it's not a lose-lose either.
I think it's just in the nature of being an animal.
Yeah, I mean,
See this, like all the way down to like microbial species will war against each other. I mean, not in the sense that we do, but
I actually wanted to roundtable that before we go any further.
Yeah.
It sounds like you already answered it, but I want to get Kenneth's opinion on it as well. Do you believe man is who he is because he is innately an animal and animals kill? Or do you believe man is the way he is because man is inherently sinful?
Ooh.
that's actually. Ooh.
Oh,
I want to go with the first one. I want to go with. I mean, yeah. I think I kind of want to say I'll agree with the first one because we are who we are because we are animals. I'm not saying we're sinful because there is good in what we do, but it's not just us. If you look at other species, there is good in what other species do.
I would say, I mean, first of all, Taylor, I'm gonna turn this around on you absolutely in a minute because that was a good question.
Yeah. It's a thinker.
I would say that a lot of it has to do with animal instinct, because if you compare us to other animals, animals don't have a religious moral viewpoint, right? What they're doing is strictly natural. What they're doing is not sinful, or I guess the opposite of that's righteousness, but righteous. But you also see in a lot of animal cultures differences, right? So certain animals, when they have an old or dying member of their clan or whatever, they'll shun that person, or not person, they'll shun that animal from the group. They'll go off and die by themselves, okay? Because they can't bring anything positive to the group. Like they're not going to catch anything that the group can eat. They're not going to provide any sort of protection, so they're then shunned to deal with it themselves, and they die. But you do see some groups of animals who actually then protect that member of their clan. So there's definitely differences from animal to animal about how they handle certain things that in our society would be treated as a religious morality question, right? So I would say that what really cues into your question is it's the fact that we are animals. There's certain things that we do naturally. There's certain things that come to us naturally. To Taylor's question, to his point, I think us being animals, we absolutely, as a human race, one of our traits is that we do self-segregate ourselves sometimes. We do size ourselves up. We do immediately judge people when they walk into a room. And even if you don't voice your opinion on that, if you don't voice that opinion, you do absolutely still size people up. You do absolutely still judge. You do absolutely still play into these stereotypes, whether you want to admit it or not. Naturally, as a human race, we do. Now, what I hope is the case is that you give people the benefit of the doubt. What I hope is the case is that you don't take that judgment anywhere outside of your mind. We all have these ticks, and it's natural to have those ticks. What I think is the problem is when people take it beyond that.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to flip it around and say, Taylor, you answer the question.
Being a religious personally, I 100% animal instinct. And it's kind of the opposite of what I was raised, and something I've never understood about the opposite of what I believe of we are inherently sinful and this is the path that we walk, is that takes away any sort of agency to fight back and to do good, because then it's you have to go outside of yourself to find that good, and it kind of I feel like it devalues the human race because our individual actions cannot be objectively good because there is through our creation we were inherently bad.
So we talk on here a lot about being a good person. We haven't ever defined it. We have asked each other if we think we are good. What is your definition of a good person versus an evil person, or a sinful person versus a righteous person?
I've, to my detriment, am a very nihilistic person. I don't think there is a lot of inherent value in except what we bring to things in just day-to-day life. So I think a person who goes out of their way, who expends effort, energy, and calories to make someone else's existence a little bit more pleasant in the chaotic void. So I think it is just kind of acts towards another person, which lets them get through this life a little bit better. Would make someone a good person, and actively degrading someone else's experience on the planet would be an evil act.
So you think people can be neutral?
Yes, yeah, I do know.
So let me ask you this, because your response poses this exact scenario. You have $5. Okay. You get paid today at lunchtime. Okay. This $5 isn't meant for you to be for you to spend on any bill or anything like this. This $5 is what's left over. You want to get you breakfast with this $5. You won't spend it anywhere else. It'll just be change in the jar. Okay. You know that you typically get a lunch item that's whatever, $3.50. Okay. But you know they sell breakfast items for $2.50. There is a child who was homeless, who's outside, doesn't ask you for anything, doesn't put any sort of information in your mind as to what they're going through or what they need, but you know they're homeless. You see them sitting out there all the time by themselves. Do you think neutrally you could go in and buy your $3.50 breakfast, you could walk out, go to your office, eat your breakfast like you normally would? That's being neutral in your mind, correct?
Yes,
So,
because I did not actively degrade the homeless person's experience by not providing them food, and I would have provided them a Bennett had I given them food, but because I was not prompted, I don't feel like it's immoral to not act on that. It would have
okay.
been better, but
So exactly, that's my point. So in your mind, that's not immoral. So that doesn't make you a bad person. Okay. Me personally, because it's a kid, I would have to buy them breakfast. And I would say that if it fit right into your plan so easily, that it would almost be immoral not to.
you're right. I leave out there's no motivation to do good things because inherently, why would you help anybody else? And you're trying to figure out where you have that drive and why you want to do the good thing when presented with that situation.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And like I always tell people on the show, whenever you ask me, I don't think I'm a good person. I try to be better each day, but I don't think I'm a good person. But in that situation, now if it was an adult, I wouldn't have done anything. To
Yeah.
me, the difference between the scenarios is at one point in time or another, that adult had an opportunity, or maybe not an opportunity, could have forced an opportunity to get himself or herself out of that situation. A kid, through no fault of their own, typically is in the situation that they're in because of other people's actions. What is a good person? What's a bad person? Or also, what is a sinful person versus a righteous person?
Well,
If you think that's different.
I believe a good person is just somebody who really believes in how there's no extra benefit besides just a moral like impact or not on yourself really when you help somebody else in whatever state condition they are.
You brought up a good point that Taylor didn't bring up. by the way, and I'm sure Taylor would agree with you now that it's been brought up, but there are people who donate millions of dollars, right? Because it doesn't affect them, but a lot of times they do it for publicity, they do it for the tax write-off, they do it for this and that. Would you say that that person is inherently good because of that action, or somebody who donates $5 when they only have seven, and they don't do it for publicity?
I think somebody who donates $1 million just to get their name on a building. No, I don't really think that person. I mean, yeah, they have a good aspect towards it,
Right.
but they're still inherently selfish.
Now, Taylor, I'm gonna let you answer the other question, and then I want to dive into something deeper. Go ahead.
So I think because I don't think people are inherently good or inherently evil, I think it is a 100% good act if you've got a celebrity giving $1 million to something,
Good
because
act.
it is,
Yes.
yeah, it is an act that does good. Therefore,
Right.
inherently to me, it says it is a good act. And the motivations to me do not play in the slightest. If they gain anything from it, that $1 million is still doing its work, and anything that they get is a completely separate issue to me.
Mhm.
Oh, that's so hard to tackle for me.
Because copycat is just something that the human race does sociologically. If you highly publicize and reward the guy that gives $1 million, people on the whole may donate more because they want to be more like their hero.
Mhm.
So now I've never thought about that. So that's a very good point. But for me, it's just that's one that I personally struggle with. I think that for a person, not necessarily to be inherently good, but to become better, you have to do things that are good acts to your point, but I think you have to do them for the right reasons.
Mhm.
Doing the good acts will not make you a good person. But you have already stated that you don't believe that people are or can be inherently good or inherently evil. So that makes sense. For me, that's something that I struggle with. So Taylor, you mentioned to me that you wanted me to answer the question too. I I agree. In my mind, there are like tiers, like levels, or whatever you want to call them. I think the pinnacle on the good side is being a perfect human being, right? Never doing any wrong, never having any sins. So it's impossible to be perfect, right? And growing up, they always had the saying, "Practice makes perfect." Um, but but really, you're striving for an unattainable goal. Okay. Um, I think though that if people never strive to be perfect, you're really gonna fall short of where you could become where you can become better. So I always strive for that, right? I understand I'll never reach it. Things that I've done in my past will prevent me from ever being up on that pinnacle. But I absolutely do think that you can become better every single day, and I think you can become a better person. At the end of the day, if you're Robin Hood, if you're robbing the rich to feed the poor, it's a good action. It's a bad act. So like it there's a balance to it. There's an up and a down.
Now, both of you guys have summarized it in different words a little bit, but do either of you guys formally believe in karma and receipts or rewards for particular behavior?
Yeah, I don't believe there's like a actual thing out there, like a form. I just feel like the more good you do, the more good will be coming back to you. It won't be immediate. I don't believe in immediate gratification with that. I believe it just happens. I just think good brings good, bad brings bad. I don't know if there's something controlling it. I don't think there is. I just think it it's something that, you know, people I think it's a good thing that should drive people to do better because, it is selfish, yeah, but it's very beneficial to the recipient.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know, informally maybe. I don't know if I actually believe in anything. To Dugan's point, um, I think that a lot of times when you're doing good, you typically put yourself in a good position. So I don't believe in karma, but I think being good, or being a better person, or doing good deeds or acts sets you up to be in a good position. You
Mhm.
typically wouldn't do something good are typically things that you would do that would be good deeds or actions, wouldn't put you in an immediate position to receive something negative, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's cause and effect.
Well,
You,
one,
Taylor?
Kind of to your point, Kenneth, of cause and effect, I'm thinking more just if you pay it forward, it inspires other people to continue doing so. And so the more people doing good deeds, like anything objectively good, would just kind of generally raise the quality of everybody's experience. I don't, because I don't believe of the power literally keeping a score sheet of how everybody is doing in life. It's hard for me to really assume more than just if you pay it forward, it might come back to you because there's more people paying it forward.
I think that I have like this consciousness about me that you're absolutely right. When I do good things, I feel better,
mhm,
right? Now I will say this, like working with people who do good things to get attention out of it puts a weird feeling in my stomach. Okay.
mhm,
So that's why I've always tried to like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do it for the right reasons. If I'm not gonna do it for the right reasons, um, I'm not the type of person that says I'm not gonna do it, because then that's, if you have the means and capability of helping somebody, in my opinion, you
mhm.
should. But I only help people who can help themselves. I do have a firm rule about that. I do think that doing positive things absolutely gets more people behind you to do positive things.
Mhm.
That you kind of set this example.
Okay, so Dugan, with all of the talk of morality and karma and how we kind of justify the actions that we do every day, that kind of, at least we satisfy ourselves of what we put out and what we took in.
Mhm.
What advice would you give to your middle school self and your senior and high school self as you're maturing and learning about the world and building the worldview that you hold as truth? What would you, like hindsight being 2020, tell your middle school and senior and high school self when it comes to
Oh,
discovering these things?
I was going to tell my middle school self anything. I would say, first of all, I would say, stick with it, but be more uh, selfless instead of self-centered when it comes to it. Because I did want to be the center of attention, but I also didn't understand like what it means to be the good person to help. And then I'd also say like things are going to get better. Things are going to like keep your head up. All that stuff. Because I remember I still had some things from middle school that happened to me that like taking me a little bit to get over. And then switching the senior year in high school, I would say a lot of the same things. Just like stick to what you believe in. Do not conform to everybody else. If I wanted to go back, I would emphasize to my middle school and senior self. Be you, like be Brian goddamn Dugan. Don't be anybody else.
All of that is a perfect segue to my next one. Now that you've kind of distilled who you are and what you try and push yourself to be every day, now that you've got yourself lined up with a new career path, what does your 5 and 10-year goals look like, personal and professional?
Well, I'll stick with professional right now because I'll be quicker. The next month, a few months, so I'm going to be getting my soil and concrete certifications, which will give me, the pay raise and it give me more opportunities to do different like projects. And so, I'm hoping maybe I work up the ECS ladder, go to the environmental, and then the marine species observer position. If not, I want to hope in like within the 5 years I find a marine biology, marine conservation job that fits me and what I can do. 10 years, same thing. I hope I do that. I hope within the 5 to 10 years I find my wife and like get because that's one goal in my life that I want to find the woman I love and will be with forever. I mean, if not, I'll just keep emailing Stevie Nicks. But uh, personally, I really just want to keep sticking to what I believe in, and but still being the open person that I have come to figure out that I like being. I don't like it because I'm not saying I like it because I want to be seen as that guy that goes like, oh, I love this guy. Let's go talk to him. I want to be just the open, like I want to hear your opinion and I want to think about it and I want to see if I can put that into my opinion. I want to be the person that just I want to be more of a motivational, more of I don't know, not really a symbol, but just something that kind of just motivates people to that. Yeah, I that's something personally I want to stick with. I just want to be the person that I believe I am. And I want to keep striving to being better than that person I believe I am too. That's just my big personal thing.
So to send us out, how would you distill your perfect self, who you are inherently, down to like 3 or 5 words? Are there a couple of descriptors that you would apply to yourself, like virtues you feel like you stand by?
Trust, forgiveness. I want to say faith and trust kind of go together. Perseverance and conservation.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us for this conversation, and thank all of you for joining us on this episode of No Universal Answers to the Universe. Catch you next time.
No Universal Answers to the Universe is an interview series by Taylor Hall and Kenneth Gibbons, which releases on YouTube and all podcast platforms every Monday. If you have any questions or would be interested in being a guest on the show, please contact us at nouniversalanswers@gmail.com or via our Instagram page at no_universal_answers. Thank you for listening and have a great night.